Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on, I can feel it in my bones.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
We're back at the round table here in Franklin, North Carolina. And my guest again, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, before we went to break, we was talking about how it was that she was locked up in the school system there, locked up in the closet and stuff. I know that had some kind of toll on you psychologically when you went home. But what about your teachers? How did they treat you during this time?
At the high school, that the teachers really had little to do as possible with me. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned before, sending me to the prison, see the principal or Negro detention was my bigger interaction with the teachers, unless I had to go to the restroom. We needed other teachers that's supposed to be looking for me would make sure a gang of boys coming in, beat me up, stuff like that. I felt hopeless. I put it like that. Sometimes felt hopeless.
So you feel like they just wasn't on your side. You couldn't get no help from them at all.
Right. So I still brought up in the church and everything. To mind elbows, I still minded my teachers, whomever was wrong person, whatever they said. I go ahead and do it just like you would do at home, at church, or over to a neighbor's house. Even though they was cruel to me, I still minded what they said and all. Then giving no love at school, heading along with it. Because I knew if I backed off or started something, it could lead to my death. I put it like that.
And it's sad. It was sad that you had to go through all that. But I think by you going through all that, it made you a better person. Because we talked a while back, and you was telling me about this book that you wrote. And tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Before we get into the book, I would like to speak about the teachers at the Negro schools.
Okay.
And this is something I didn't learn during that period of time. I've learned this from my wife's uncle, whose wife taught at the same Negro school I went to. But they had a different kind of pay system for the Negroes than the whites. In order for a Negro teacher to get the contract to work at the Negro school, they had to sign this contract saying they're going to buy from this particular list. No matter what they find, car, groceries, whatever they needed, they had to buy from the list the school board provided them. If they altered from that list, they'd be fired right away. And I learned this from my wife's uncle because she bought this car from this dealership, and my wife's uncle said they knew the car wasn't no good, but they sold it to her anyway. Kept going back, fixing this, fixing that. Car stayed in the shop more than at home while she was driving to school. Okay, so finally he said, you need to get you a General Motors car, something that you can depend on. As soon as she got the car, she was fired. So I don't quite understand, always sure how the mafia do, but that sounds like some kind of mafia tactic. You can't work unless you buy from these particular people, and most of these people they was talking about, the school board was king to them, the school board owned the businesses. So I never understood that, but I didn't learn it directly from the teachers because they never said anything about it, but I learned from my wife's uncle because he said he never understood it either.
And again, let's reiterate, this was back in the 60s, not that long ago.
Right, because like you said, this stuff worked on me for years and years. And really, I decided to write a book actually when I was at the high school in detention. I thought to myself, you need to remember this and write this stuff down. I started writing that stuff down years ago, kept up with the paperwork, just kept writing it, getting better at it, refining it, reducing it back, and finally, it's been 3 years, I decided to actually contact the publishers to see about it. Finally got the manuscript completed, and this past September, finally got a publisher, and I was so surprised. First time in the book business, and the people I'm working with real good, and they told me the truth about everything. They said it might be slow at first getting a publisher, but once my manuscript got around, the word that every day somebody was calling wanted the book.
Right.
One lady said, "Mr. Harris, somebody's gonna make a movie about this. People need to know this."
Wow, that's great. Absolutely.
In fact, I'm not sure of the release date, but it's going to be sometime in the first quarter of 2023. And I do have a little information about my book. The name of the book is Brown Skin Boy.
Okay.
That's the name of it. And what I do, I'll read the overview that the publisher put out about it.
Okay.
And it really sums up the whole book.
Okay.
Growing up on his family farm, all I ever wanted to do was to go to college and help the residents of his small Negro community better themselves. But his dreams are dashed when a representative from the Board of Education forced him to desegregate Franklin High or risk everything and everyone he loved. Set in North Carolina during the height of Jim Crow, brown-skinned boys draws uncanny parallels between past and present. With his life on the line, it isn't a question of if he'll lose himself, but when. As our idea of equality and freedom are put to the test, he discovers that bigotry leaves no room for happy endings. Surrounded by hatred and violence, he must navigate what it means to be a brown-skinned boy in a world that wishes he was anything but.
Wow. That's good. That's good. And I know the book's going to be a success because I can tell from the struggle that you went through and until now, the things that you are doing. I mean, this book, it's going to shed a whole lot of light on.
I hope it do because I want other people in my age group to come forward with their stories too, because it was a whole lot of suffering for many of us back in that era. I want them to come because a lot of times we're taught to hold things in and not share, but you'd be surprised if you talk to the average person my age, in my age group, of what they have seen or went through.
Right, absolutely. And that's my goal. That's the purpose of my podcast. To talk with people, let them get it out, because there's so much history that has been covered over, and I just basically want to uncover it so people know the real facts, the real truth about it, regardless of what your skin color is.
Right, the real North Carolina, because people don't know about North Carolina, because even the MLK said when he spoke in Raleigh, July 31st, 1966. And what he said, North Carolina being one of our most liberal states, why did he have the most KKK? That's what he said. That's all he had to say. So you can, and he's speaking here in Raleigh, Capital, at the same time, KKK rally. Who do you think the news media covered?
They covered the KKK.
Right. It was he's I think one of the national media was the only one that covered him. All right. Everybody else
was downtown with the KKK.
Yeah, just like Professor Miller, who did the research and did a program about that. He said, what does it mean when the Raleigh police chief shakes hands with the KKK grand wizard? I wonder what does that mean.
Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on, I can feel it in my bones.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom. Would you like to pick a new name?